That's a good thing you were muted there, Melissa.
Are we all on?
Yep.
And Dan, I'm not seeing your video. I think you just hit the three dots and pull.
What happened here?
Yeah, your audio seems a little choppy as well.
Okay.
There you are. Now you're gone. So Dan, are you able to hover over with your mouse on your where it says Dan Thino, showing like the thumbnail of your video? You'll see a blue box with three white dots. If you select that and pull it down, you will see an option to start video. And you're also muted. Dan, can you confirm that you heard those instructions? Kasha, if the technical difficulties continue with Dan, you may end up chairing.
All right, you'd have to bear with me if I have to, but no worries.
So we see, Dan, that you're connected, but I see that you're muted and there is no image, and I have not heard you in probably 90 seconds at least. I think we may have lost him.
I think we could move forward, and when he gets back on, then he can take over.
Let's double check to see what we have for quorum here.
There's four of us here. There should be five of us here.
Right. We still would have quorum even without Dan,
Okay,
but we can't.
all right, well, to make sure that doesn't happen, I'll just kick off the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission meeting for March 21st. With roll call, so I'm here. Dan Thino hopefully is back on. Craig Stevens, Alder Craig
I'm here.
here. Lieutenant Mike Sobiek.
He's on vacation, but Sergeant Sean Hamill's here.
Oh, thank you for coming. And then Melissa Flukie,
Here.
Patrick Sorrell.
Here.
All right. So we'll move on to the approval of the agenda for the for March 21st, 2022. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Perfect. And then we'll move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes if no one sees any changes that need to be made for February 21st?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Excellent.
Okay, am I on yet?
Yes. I'll add you to roll call here, Dan. I made it through everything. You're on to E, regular business.
We had a first and a second. Now we need to approve the minutes.
Oh, yeah, first and second, so minutes are approved. And I'll hand it back over to Dan.
Good job, Kasha.
Move it along, move it along.
Dan's muted again. I don't know if the same thing happened.
Well, I guess I will just keep talking until we can hear Dan. For regular business, is everything the order that everything is in okay? Or is there anybody on that we would want to move anything around for?
I'll just interject on two things. I've talked with both Alders LaFave and Alder Stoyer today. They both are attending other meetings, but are going to try to get in on this meeting. So they've asked their items to be pushed as far down as possible. They may not need it, but they just want to be able to attend to their items. And so if they need to be pushed, you know, I guess they can be pushed as we move along the meeting, because it looks to me like, I mean, hers is item 3, and then.
This is last. So, all right, well, we'll go just on to one, general business, the report by Green Bay Police Department on the traffic enforcement unit safety plan. And that's going to be, I'm guessing, Sergeant Sean Hamill.
It is correct. All right. Just so I can pull this up. All right, so we have the, I'm trying to pull this up, see if the page will come up correct. All right, so this crash data we had this week, or this month, 240 total crashes, 0 fatalities. We had one close one on Broadway, middle of the night. Intoxicated male crashed into a tree. I personally went out and did a reconstruction on that one. Male ended up not surviving, just with some serious injuries. But we had 40 hit and runs, 213 property damage crashes, and 27 injury crashes. Some of the hot spots, Mason and 41, it's a typical hotspot one for us. Some of the areas we're going to be focusing on this month, Ackerland and West Mason, which you know is one that's slated for a redevelopment or redesign coming up. So that should help with that in the long term. Mason and Military, Baird and Maine, as well as Baird and University, that whole area right there. Webster and Mason, which I know one we had, that was last month, there was another hotspot for us in that same area. And we've been working on some during the day, some special enforcement there. Lime Kiln and Mason, as well as Lime Kiln and Maine, that whole area. Complaint wise, as usual, speeding is the main complaint that we've had from the aldermen as well as citizens. And we've been focusing on that as well. And then a special advisory this month that we're trying to focus on is the school zones. So we've been putting traffic officers out there and stressing that to the day shift officers as well, and during discretionary time to focus on the school zones, keep the kids safe there. And then as far as, in addition to our traffic officers, we've also been, most days of the week, we'll direct our day shift officers to the hotspot areas. The ones that I listed there, we'll pick one for the day, and during the officer's discretionary time, try to focus on that area for specific issues with the main goal of reducing crashes. All right, and we got any questions on that stuff?
No, just thanks and keep up the great work.
You're
I
welcome.
guess I will, do I need a motion to put this on file or can I just put this report on
No.
file?
No, I'll make a motion to receive and place on file.
Excellent.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
You're welcome.
Fair say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Craig.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Perfect. Brush up on my Robert's rules for next time Dan's computer doesn't work here. The second one is we're going to move on to referred back from staff consideration with possible action on the request by Commissioner and draft a letter of support to fill the vacancy left by Commissioner Matt Kuipers. Does anyone have an update on that?
I have added to the agenda packet a sample letter, one that I've drafted up. And I briefly spoke with Commissioner Thino and just wanted to get his take on it. And he thought it read well. So with that, unless you have some modifications would like to see to it, I make a recommendation to approve of it, and then I can move forward and just send this letter out. I would be sending it to Wisconsin Northeast Regional Office, the Director, Colleen Harris, and then over to Brown County Highway Department and to Director Fontecchio.
I just had a couple follow-up questions. One of them was, if we support this letter, then is that saying like in the future for vacancies, we're also wanting another engineer? And then my second question is, do we know if anyone else has applied for that position? Like, how does that typically work that we get to look? Are we part of getting to choose who that is?
The way that it works, and actually in the letter, I briefly addressed that, and there is a website that we have for board member application, and the hyperlink is provided in the letter, and anyone that would like to apply, they can, in essence, complete the application, and it goes to the mayor's office. Mayor's office reviews it and will, if they deem it necessary, they will, or if they want the candidate, they'll put it on a common council agenda for an appointment to the TVPC in this case. So it's a streamlined process. It really hasn't changed much over the years, other than now that since we do many things electronically, that now this application is now available online. But once it actually gets to the mayor's office, mayor reviews it. And if approves, wants it as an appointment, that gets on common council's agenda for appointment.
Okay, I was just curious because I know someone who applied and I was wondering if we were part of that, but it doesn't sound like it.
Correct.
So traditionally, how long would we wait for applicants?
It's always kind of an open enrollment, so to speak. Sometimes they get filled right away. Sometimes, at least in the number of years I've been staff representative for the commission, I mean, there's been times where we've had 2 and I think actually up to 3 vacancies outstanding. It really just kind of depends on really, the interest of the community. It can really change from year to year. So I've seen it both ways, where vacancies will be there and we have pretty much have all vacancies taken care of and there's no vacancies available.
Excellent. Any other questions on that? Otherwise, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion to let
I'll
this
make a
get
motion.
sent.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the letter.
Excellent.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Excellent. So that will move forward here. Is LaFave on? Is Alder LaFave on yet? Do we see?
I'm not recognizing the number. I, I see Alder Sawyer is on. He is a 6033 number.
Okay, and then, yes, I don't think she's on, so we can push that one and see if she
Make a
can,
motion to move that to the end.
and someone's making a motion to move that.
I think I heard Craig make a motion. Is that correct?
I did, sorry, yes.
And Can we
Second.
get a second from Melissa? Excellent. So we will push the third item and move on to number 4. Initial request, the consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Scannell to change the no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday to a 3-hour 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Friday Van Buren from Cherry to Pine. Is Scannell on by any chance? Don't think so.
I don't recognize any of the numbers, but I did have a conversation with him.
You want to let us know what you think about this one, David?
Yes. So if you recall from last discussion, we weren't sure about roadway widths, if we could have parking on both sides of the street. So I did evaluate it after the meeting and determined that we do have enough roadway width to support parking on both sides of the street. And you know, his request is really looking for more consistency, and it is at the request of the neighbors that live right next to it. So with those two conditions, and knowing from an engineering perspective that we have, I think, an acceptable proposal on the table, I will make a recommendation that on a 90-day to remove the no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday zone on the west side of Van Buren Street from Cherry Street to Pine Street, and establish in its place a 3-hour 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday parking zone on the west side of Van Buren Street from Cherry Street to Pine Street.
Make a motion to approve what's recommended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? All right, well, we'll put that recommendation through then. And number 5, consideration with possible action on the request again by Scannell for a parking zone modification to allow bus loading near 611 North Ashland Avenue.
I did also, as part of that conversation with the alder, discuss this item, but I'll back up even a step further. Actually, the requester that lives at that address had contacted my office probably 2-3 weeks ago with this identical request. So he had explained that he has a disabled son. The son gets picked up by a Medivan. And there happens to be vehicles that are parked on the street in front of his house from a nearby business all day, and this blocks this access for his son to get picked up. So obviously I saw, the issue there. But there's really kind of two things going on. It really works out kind of in actually the app or the requester's favor and in public works favor, because this is one of the last areas in the city, if not the last area in the city, that of a 4-lane divided roadway that actually has parking on it. And you may ask, why is that such an issue? It's an issue because it's giving conflicting messages to motorists. You're showing them that you have a marked travel lane on a roadway, but then again, then they encounter stopped vehicles, and obviously they wouldn't have any flashers on or anything like that. So there are these pockets of this north of Dousman Street that are there. So really what you have, it's really the west side of the street. And for that, I think it's 3 blocks between Dousman and Mathers Street that you'll see a number of longer no parking here to corner zones, and then just unrestricted parking. So again, this is kind of one of those win-win situations where the applicant would get what he needs, because in essence, if we establish a no parking zone that is by statute and municipal code would become a loading zone. So I just instructed them that if this does pass, that as long as the bus stops in front of the house, puts its flashers on, is in attendance of the vehicle, that is not an illegal activity and is quite acceptable for the loading, unloading of this disabled child from this address. So with that said, I do make a recommendation that, and again, this is parking related, so on a 90-day trial, that we would remove all of these no parking zones that are on the west side. So you've got west side of Main Street to a point 130 feet. South of Mather, removing again, west side of Ashland, 0.75 feet. North of Bond Street to a 0.75 feet. South of Bond Street, doing the same thing. By Elmore Street, there's a 75 feet north, 75 feet south. Kellogg Street, and we've got it 80 feet north of Kellogg Street to Kellogg Street. And one more is Dawson Street to 300 feet north of Dawson Street. And this one's a little bit longer because it's a signalized intersection that they're approaching. And then finally, what we would do is remove the no parking zone on both sides of Ashland from the south city limits to Mather. Now, I know that sounds really long, but all we're doing is reestablishing, and then the final zone would look like this: establishing no parking zone on the west side of Ashland from Mather Street to James Street, and reestablishing it on the east side as well. So that really should, if you were actually following this in the agenda packet, item 8 should actually be both sides, not just the west side, should be both sides of Ashland Avenue. And again, this is more for consistency purposes, for the classification of the roadway and the way it's marked on the pavement.
I'll make a motion to approve what's recommended.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, perfect. Well, we will put the 90-day trial on this section here. We'll move on to number 6.
Hold on,
The
come on. Is Dan back?
I am. Dan, can you hear us?
Why does he keep muting?
oh,
If you can unmute Dan, I mean, that'd be great. Yeah, well, we're not hearing anything.
all right.
Continue.
There's no Dan. I'll just keep going. Consideration with possible action on the request by Alder Stoyer to discuss traffic safety concerns over the conversion from signalized to all-way stop condition at the intersection of Dousman Street and Gray Street. And Stoyer is on. So Stoyer, if you'd like to give us a little explanation.
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay, boy, I'll tell you, I'm navigating 2 meetings right now, and this is not a, my agenda item is up right now too, so for the other meeting. But I'll just briefly mention that I've been in touch with a citizen, John Health, who lives on the southeast corner of Dousman and Gray Street. And we've talked a little bit about the situation that is going on that intersection, more or less safety issue. And over time, you know, we had traffic lights there, now we don't. We have a 4-way stop. And there are folks that have been complaining about people running the stop sign or rolling stops or speeding or just not taking care on that. And I know we went through a long setup over time with Engineer Hansen on this, talking about how expensive it would be to have lights there. We have the 4 stop signs. There has been talk about maybe getting red flashing lights on each of these stop signs to help with people so they will navigate the stop rather than rolling through. It is a fairly busy area. you've got some schools nearby, and you got a swimming pool nearby. So anyway, I more or less told the folks at the Next Door app, there were a number of folks that might be in the meeting right now, that we would just talk about this and just talk about some possible solutions, if at all, and 90-day trials if need be. So anyway, I'm going to just make that statement and see. I have to get into my other meeting right now. So I'll try to be on and I'll try to speak where I can. But we're just looking for potential solutions to a problem that I think that might be cropping up right now. And some of the citizens might be able to help you with that.
Vice Chair, I have a question for the Alder.
Yes.
Okay, so Alder Steuer, you stated that the residents are stating that people are just driving through the stop sign. Do you know what time of day?
Well, you know, it varies. I mean, Mr. Health lives in that area, but you know, it's you know, probably earlier in the morning. You know, it could be, you know, anywhere from 7 to 9 in the morning, after school, that type of thing. You know, it's not consistent. You know, I know the police have been over there occasionally, but you know, for the most part, I haven't heard a whole lot of complaints. But it just seems recently that I've had a number from citizens, and I don't have a completely solid set of the times that these are happening. Might have to ask some of the citizens about that, but it seems like it would be more mid morning, and then, you know, toward the end of the school day and work. You know, people coming home from work, that type of thing. Probably
No,
more in the morning though.
I asked you the question due to the fact 3 weeks ago on a Saturday morning, I drove through there within an hour between 8 and 9 in the morning, and both vehicles in
Right.
front of me just blew right through that stop sign. So I feel like
Right,
it's probably
and like-
happening more of that
Yeah,
7 to 9 o'clock area that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just my calculated guess on that right now. So anyway, I might be dipping into my other meeting in a minute, but I'll be here to, you know, testify further if need be. But you know, you might want to open the floor to see if some of the citizens might want to speak to this as well.
Sure, and I assume you would also like us to instruct the police department to do more enforcement in the morning hours, especially over the weekends.
Well, yeah, that would help. And, you know, like
Okay.
I said, ask some of the citizens what their feelings are on that, but I would say that would be helpful.
Sure,
That
definitely.
would be helpful. And then also to look at the possibilities of stop signs. You know, I think sometimes the people just don't see them. And there is a tree that kind of blocks some of the signs. There might be a little bit of cleanup that we have to do on a tree or two.
Okay.
So that's one thing. So I would have the committee, you know, talk to the citizens about this, and you know, if need be, if we can do a trial basis, or I'd like to know what the costs would be to Director, you know, Engineer Hansen could talk about that, as far as potential costs for maybe flashing red lights on top of a stop sign. You know, that could cause a problem too. Some neighbors might not like it, but you know, we're just looking at some alternatives here.
All right, thank
You,
you. for your
Alder
comments.
Steuer.
All right, I'm gonna stop bow out for a minute because I have to get in my other meeting, but I will be here in case somebody needs to talk. Just be patient with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we need to do more? Because I can see some of the citizens are in on the call.
Sure, I'll make a motion to open the floor.
Second,
Excellent. I can for sure see the John that Steuer was talking about. If you have any comments.
Yeah, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you.
Real quick before you start, it's common for, and this is kind of for Kasha for running the meeting, is to
Okay.
state the name. I got the spelling, it looks like from your Zoom, and then
Okay.
an address, please.
Address.
Yeah, John Helf. I live at 10 Street. It's the east corner of Gray and Dousman. And last spring,
John, one moment, please.
yes.
Alder Stoyer, can you please mute? Or Dan, can you mute him? Or Dave, I mean?
I'm trying to.
Okay,
There he
perfect.
goes.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay, last spring when the lights were changed around to just a four-way stop, I just became aware of vehicles just ignoring the stop signs and going straight through. It was very concerning to me, and I recently retired, so I had time to actually observe this. And to my shock, it was just against everything, safe driving practices. And one evening I observed 8 vehicles in a 2-hour period. And I called the police, and they came out that I'm aware of for 2 nights. But they told me their hands are pretty much tied because there's only so much enforcement that they can do. Well, then I called the city, Mr. Hanson. He said the flashing lights may be a problem. Well, at that time, I just accepted it. But I don't really believe it's going to be a problem to have flashing lights around, solar powered flashing lights around the stop signs. Because I took the initiative to call Ashwaubenon, and they've installed 3 of these in their village. And I had talked to Lee Van den Nelsen. He's a street operations supervisor. And he's told me that he's had no complaints about lights, being disruptive to the neighborhoods where they've installed these. And he's also stated that they've had improved safety at these corners. So anyways, I looked up the cost of these, like from a supplier like Granger, and it runs anywhere from $7,600 to like $6,800 for a set of 4 of them. I just think that could be money well spent, seeing as we have a problem on this corner, and perhaps other intersections in the city where the police would identify some problem areas where people are ignoring the stop signs. Because living on this corner, I'm concerned about an accident, a high impact crash barreling right into my house. And just today I was out putting a yard sign in the yard, and I heard a horn, and somebody on Gray Street blew their horn at a car going on Dousman, just ignored it as I was pounding my sign into the ground. So the problem still exists. And I know Stower was going to pay a visit to my home, when the weather gets a little nicer, and we're going to sit out and observe. But perhaps we don't have to wait that long, to do this on a trial basis. I think the neighborhood would be a lot safer for it.
Well, thanks for coming on and sharing with us, John. Is there anyone else from the neighborhood that is on? I think that looks like the only.
Tasha,
Yeah.
Alder Lefebvre has a question.
Oh, okay. Alder Lefebvre.
Yes, I just want to say that, and I knew that they were changing it. I saw the news reports and everything that it was going to be changed. So I would think, though, too, that I would have noticed the stop sign anyway. But yeah, I've seen, I don't know if Dave can bring up other stop signs I've seen where they have the flashing lights around them. And especially, I think it takes a while for people to notice something when it changes, because they're so used to, a certain way, and they just, not watching or paying attention. Unfortunately, we got enough of that. But it happened once where, see, I don't go that often, Ridge Road, and it was in the winter, and the stop sign had snow on it from the storm. I was going through and all of a sudden, I kind of saw some flashing, and I ended up stopping in the intersection almost, because I don't go through that all the time. But I think if there wouldn't have been snow on there, I would have noticed the stop sign, especially with the flashing lights, would have helped. I did, like I said, I noticed them before I actually blew through the intersection. But I think, maybe Dave can expand on that, with the flashing lights on their help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments at all? Otherwise,
I do have a question for John.
okay.
So
Yes,
John, can you explain when majority of this people going through that stoplight is happening?
well, I would sit in my window here in the evening, like 7 to 10 o'clock, and this is when I would observe people going right through the intersection, because the traffic had thinned out by then, the daytime traffic, so traffic was moving right along. There was nothing else to slow them down, and for some reason they were missing the stop sign. So my observation was in the evening hours.
Evening hours? Okay, the reason why I asked, mine was during the morning hours, so I'm just trying to determine what's the best time if we were gonna ask the police department to please start enforcing this a little heavier. So thank you for your comments.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, David, I'm sure you already looked at this ahead of time. Do you have any feedback?
Sure.
Before that,
Sure.
make a motion to close the floor.
Oh, make a motion to close the floor.
Second,
Okay. Closed, and I'll hand it over to David.
Thank you. Yes, I looked at some, I wanted to see if there's any updates on crash history and everything, but I think I'm gonna go back just a little bit, just because I know there's commissioners that maybe weren't on the commission at the time when this was approved. So the timeline was January of 2021 is when some utilities, including Green Bay Water Utility, were coming through that area. And it was going to impact that signal, obviously, for the reconstruction of the intersection. And at that time is when we ended up putting it into flash mode. And I put an informational item on the agenda that January, in essence, telling the commissioners that this was going to be happening and that we're going to be trying out the four-way stop. In essence, we're just changing the operations of the signal. So we basically said, administratively, it's a study that we're conducting, just letting you know. Now, fast forward to May of 2021, I brought back study results, including the warrant analyses, which I did include in the agenda packet. So we did warrants to see if traffic signals were still warranted. Came back no. As a matter of fact, when we started looking a little bit closer at the crash history, we were seeing not only angled type crashes, which traffic signals are supposed to prevent or at least reduce or minimize, but we were seeing an uptick in injuries. And outside of the study area, just as FYI, years prior, as we look at a 5-year crash history, there actually was a fatality at that intersection. And I know that was definitely, since I've been here, it was, I guess you'd say, on my watch. So with that being said, that was really a red flag to us that there was something not right with the signal. And by going through the warrant analysis and finding out it wasn't warranted, that was part of the problem. So the other part was, well, how are we going to start reducing injuries and start reducing the amount of angled crashes? And so I conducted what I would say would be a regression in traffic intersection control. So going to the all-way stop condition and ran through the warrant analysis engineering study with that, and found that actually a 4-way stop was the best form of intersection traffic control for the intersection. So that being said, we did go, I brought it through this commission for approval. It was approved, Common Council approved it as well. So now up to that time frame, I did bring forward some of the crashes that had occurred. So we actually, not surprised, right out of the gates when we changed it, we did see some. We actually saw 4 crashes in about a 2-month period. And again, that sounds like a lot, but I'll be honest with you, it's something that it does happen in a transition. It's well documented. But the one thing that we saw was that they were low impact type crashes. No one was getting injured, no one's getting killed. So timeline after that. So what has happened since we brought this forward? We've had 3 minor crashes. We had a westbound, hit a northbound left in May, and it looks like October. There was very little detail in the report. It just said following too closely. So that probably was just a very minor fender bender. And then in January, there was eastbound and southbound colliding. There was an issue with no insurance, and I believe driving after revocation, I believe was in on that one as well. Obviously, not exactly the best driver was participating in that crash. So that being said, the numbers that I'm seeing are actually pretty low, and I wanted to kind of just give you a summary as well, what I saw in the 5 years. So starting in 2017, there were a total of 8 crashes with 3 injuries. 2018, there were 8 crashes. Now this is a signal, remember, 8 crashes and 2 injuries. 2019, 9 crashes and 4 injuries. 2020, 4 crashes, 1 injury. 2021, which is when we started doing the trial, 6 crashes, which I explained 4 before the trial was over, and then 3 since then. 0 injuries. And 2022, we've had 1 crash so far, 0 injuries. So I guess to really sum up, and we'll address some of the issues that have been brought forward, but I just want to assure you that, and it's my belief, our departments believe, that the 4-way stop actually is the right intersection traffic control, and that we are seeing a reduction in injuries, which is, to me, that's great news. Now let's get to stop sign compliance. I do recall clearly on what we had done in the conversion. So the conversion, we had a signalized operation until January. Then we put it into flash mode. We did apply stop signs to the signal posts. But once the signal posts had to come out due to the reconstruction, we ended up putting in permanent installation of stop signs. And we also did put stop ahead signs. So that's your warning sign that shows a stop with an arrowhead. Put them at the right distance, which is roughly around 250 feet in advance of the intersection, plus or minus. And we also did flag, I believe, for a number of months as well into that. So from an engineering perspective, I would say that we have what we need out there in order to, for compliance to engineering standards. Now, compliance here. Again, everyone here hears me talk. We got engineering, education, enforcement. So we really need all 3 of these in order to see an improvement in compliance. So I know that there was some discussion already earlier as part relative to improving or maybe kind of focusing in on the enforcement part of this or component of it. There's discussion about time of day when these run-throughs may be happening. So perhaps that could be part of the approach to solving this issue. When it comes down to engineering, we've already heard about flashing lights. There's the beacon style where there's typically like a 8 to 12 inch beacon on the top that would be flashing. That's a little bit more, what you would see probably 10, 20 plus years ago. Now, I guess you'd say more modern type of application would be to have perimeter LEDs flash around that sign. And Mr. Health had described that what they have in Ashwaubenon at those 3 locations as being a potential solution. What hasn't been discussed at this point in time, we can do other retroreflective applications and pavement marking applications. We can always upsize the signs. We can always double up signs, meaning that there would be one on the right, one on the left as you approach it. You can even double up the warning signs coming up to it. Flagging them again is an option. Increasing the actual size of them that way, especially if nighttime conditions are a problem. Seeing the retroreflectivity of the light that's coming back to the motorist, basically giving it a bigger target value. The application of bright sides would be, we install many of our stop signs on what we call a C-channel post. So there's a groove down the middle of this post, and it's in essence putting this reflectorized plastic piece in there, and it's really the same material that you see on the red part of the continuum to the ground. I'm sure you've seen them in some locations. And we've had actually some success with the bright sides in the past. Getting down to pavement marking, we can always increase the conspicuity of the stop lines. So I believe we put 24-inch stop lines out there, pavement marking white lines. We could increase those. Sometimes the application of putting the words in advance, kind of similar to what you'd see in advance of a railroad crossing, where you see the RXR in advance of it. You could put stop, or sometimes even by school zones, you'd see the pavement markings. So similar situation here, you might be able to put some word applications on the pavement. And then, of course, the blinking LED lights. But as Mr. Health had explained, he did a little bit of research, looked into the cost of them in Granger, $7,600. Quite honestly, I haven't ordered one of these in a while, so I don't want to give you any indication of what I think the cost may be, but they may be in the ballpark of what he's talking, what he referenced. The other thing is that the way that we do our installations like this, we would actually put in concrete bases. With steel poles, they're just more robust, and when they get knocked down, they're much more easily replaced rather than having a ground installed post for a stop sign. The other thing to consider is, and I know that Mr. Health had made mention that he and I had a discussion, and I said that the flashlights would be a problem. I just want to explain what the problem is. It's not necessarily a problem, it's more of concerns for nearby residents, and he's one of them, that would have this flashing light constantly in their windows. It doesn't stop. It's 24/7, 365. And for applications, the intensity can differ by day and night. So during the day, it's probably going to have a higher intensity because it's competing with ambient light. Versus at night, it can draw down a little bit, but that's just, I need to give you all sides to it, because some people may complain, some people have complained at locations where you have flashing lights and they may have a living room right there, and this is where they watch TV, and it just may interfere with their quality of life. So I just wanted to make that clear. That's really the issue that I see could potentially happen. But other than that, I know that the compliance can improve with any of these applications. It's whether or not, is it worth the money to throw forward? And that's really kind of a discussion that needs to be made, and that can be made tonight. So that's really all I have on the item.
I have a question for you, Dave.
Yes.
So is the power still out there?
No, power's been removed.
Removed?
Correct. Yeah, but the thing is with these LED blinker signs, and I believe Mr. Halford had mentioned this, that they're solar powered. So that's really the way that we would go about it. It's economically, it's much better, because if we would actually have to pay a meter charge to Wisconsin Public Service, that would run us probably $25 to $30 minimum, and that's with 0 kilowatts being used for energy. So clearly LED and battery power, it's basically battery power, but the battery is recharged with a solar panel. So that is really the only way that we would ever look at it. It's really a way to go about it. And why not? It's clean energy, and I think it's probably the most sustainable way to go about it.
So clarify if I'm wrong on this thinking. It seems like we have more of an issue with traffic on Dousman than we do with the traffic on Gray Street. Am I correct? Regarding these stop signs?
Right. I can just tell you anecdotally from what I've seen, and again, this was earlier on in the trial. I did see some violations in all directions, but yes, predominantly, at least from what I had seen, and then really what the traffic crashes are saying. There's always eastbound or westbound involved in these. Obviously takes two conflicting, so you're always going to have one of those, but it does seem to be probably that. And that's really should be of no surprise, because that's where you're going to have more of the traffic. There's more traffic on Dousman Street. So I think just by probability, you're just going to have more violations on that street.
I have a question. Alderman Stoyer indicated that there might be some trees that need to be trimmed. Has anybody kind of took a look at that?
When we put the signs up, we look for these types of things. Want to install signs and have something block them in the way, or sometimes there even might be parking signs that could obstruct the stop signs and things like that. That's really standard procedures for us to be looking into that. That doesn't mean that since the installation happened, almost a year ago, that there could have been some increased, growth on these trees, and there could be some overhang already that's occurring. I didn't, run out there, as part of this, just to double check that. But I mean, that's something that certainly staff can go back out, review, and we've got a great working relationship with our forestry department, and we usually just ask them, we'll identify these locations, and they try to do the best that they can, and hopefully maybe not have this come back anytime soon. So I mean, that's certainly something we can look at.
To me, to me, it seems like we have 3 kind of ideas going, which is great to go at it at all different angles, right? We have the law enforcement piece. We have what Patrick just brought up with the trees and taking a look at that. And then with all the stuff that Dave mentioned, I always think of least restrictive environment in regards to school stuff, right? So I'm kind of thinking the same way, what can we try that's least restrictive first, whether it's those reflective things on the poles, and see if that makes a difference before making a big change, like the lights are on the stop sign. And then I also wonder, do we have and continue to collect the data to see if what we're going to try it makes a difference, as opposed to just what we feel like it's making the difference.
And can I piggyback off of Melissa? So I have ideas. I think we all have ideas, but we do have one person here that I think we need to talk to, is our traffic officer. He's on Zoom here today. I think it would be good to know if he could answer. I'm putting him on the spot. How often have you been enforcing this area? What traffic officers here? I can't see the last name.
You get Sergeant Hamill.
Sergeant Hamill. Is that you? I see there's a traffic officer.
That probably is me. Unless one of the other guys was able to sign in.
Oh, no, he's here.
Yep, Officer Rager.
Hi, Rager. How are you?
Go ahead, Keith.
The question would be to you how often have you been enforcing this area?
I actually think I recall some of the voicemails from John reference that intersection. I think we've spent a couple hours there each time he's called. We never really see the blatant disregard for stop signs where people just don't even slow down. The ones that we usually saw there were just the rolling stops, which it's very difficult to make every single one of those traffic stops. Plus working a given shift. But like I said, I'm not doubting that there are those blatant disregarding of stop signs where people just blow through them. But we haven't seen those when we've sat out there.
Okay, and so but you're scheduled to work Monday through Friday, correct?
Yeah, there's 2 of us that work afternoon shift Monday through Friday, and there's 2 of us that work day shift after Monday through Friday.
And there's no traffic officers on the weekends?
No, but our patrol division has their own traffic initiatives that they do as well. So I can always bring that up to the shift commanders so that they can set one of those up where those officers that day can try and focus on that. But like I said, when we've sat out there for hours, it's difficult to sit there for 2-3 hours and not see much. So we usually move on to other complaints. But
Sure.
I'll see
No,
if
I understand.
patrol can handle it as well.
But I think we're looking at more on 7 to 10, and then especially on the weekends. For me, I've seen it on Saturdays between 8 and 9 in the morning.
Mhm.
But when shift change happens, send an officer out there and sit there till 9 o'clock. I'm sure you'll catch some people. So
Yeah, like I said, the traffic division has to focus on the more egregious violators, not just the people rolling through stop sign. That's not the biggest issue for us. Speed is a bigger issue, but people just kind of rolling through those stop signs. Yeah, we'll make those stops when we can, but usually there's other pressing matters that we have to attend to as well.
I understand that. But patrol officers, they can do it as well.
Yeah, and they're bound. They're still stuck answering calls and listening to the radio, so their time is limited as well. But like I said, I'll see if the lieutenant can try and make one of those for one of the weekdays when school's in session as well.
Yes, we should definitely do the weekends. Any other questions for the officer? All right, thank you, officer.
Right, and LaFave, I saw your hand up, so if Alder LaFave.
I just want to say that, yeah, David is right. Dave is right about four-way stops are safer because you're probably going to have maybe 3 obeying the sign and you got one person, not. So it is much safer because I know traffic light. Try to beat where the crashes would be there, but I think it would be good somehow if we could have, as Alder Stevens had mentioned, have some officer sitting and watching at certain times where they think that this is going to happen. It's hard sometimes to catch them, but it would be good. And then I think if you cite enough people, the word kind of gets around. Sometimes that helps too. They caught and you're going to be fined. So yeah, I think that's one of the things. And then anything else that that you could do to help on the visibility of the sign and maybe some flashing, whatever Dave Hansen says is probably a good idea. Mm-hmm.
So David, of all of the strips and bigger stop signs and marcations, like the railroad or school, is there any one that you think would recommend for us to try first?
I would probably either upsizing the stop sign itself to make a bigger target value and or maybe the bright sides, sides. And, I think that's a pretty low cost measure for us. It's really just, we buy 4 of them and just slap them in there and see how it works. The hard thing, and I heard this before, is how are we going to quantify this? That's the difficult part is, I know Melissa was saying, well, we should really find out if this is going to work, what's working. So unless you really have someone out there watching it, or you're recording a video of before and after, and then having someone watch that video, which is I'm just going to use the proverbial phrase like watching paint dry because it's not happening all the time. That's the difficult part because we really don't have people to do that. It's really me and one other guy doing all the traffic engineering in this city. So, you know, kind of like what the officer had said, I really probably could be putting our resources to other things. But at the end of the day, I really think that what we're getting anecdotally is true. I mean, we've heard it from Mr. Health, we've heard it from Alder Craig Stevens, that we're still seeing this. I think from when I've been out there, because obviously I was there from the day of when we shut that signal off, and I've been monitoring it. I've seen it get better, and that's the expected cycle that you're going to see. So, if there was any engineering measure, I would say that I think would get us probably the best bang for the buck. Maybe that's not the right term to be using here. We're trying to reduce crashes and run through, but you know what I meant. Would probably be the bright sides, and then maybe after that, upsizing the actual stop signs. After that, probably doubling up the stop signs. And I do know that there are, I guess what you would call permanent flags. Flags that dangle in the wind, but they start to really look tattered and kind of tacky, I'll be frank, and really not a long amount of time. But if you've ever seen, I know the DOT uses it, they'll actually have permanently mounted ones that are, it's literally just sign material that they're using to put them up, or that's what it consists of. So that would probably be maybe a fourth countermeasure. I'll be quite frank, where I like to see flashing, blinking signs is more like where we've got a crash problem. Like I'm seeing injuries happening, and we've tried enforcement, and it really hasn't worked. And an educational campaign, maybe getting some media attention out of it, so that drivers are aware that this is a dangerous intersection or anything like that. But at this location, I'm just not seeing that. I'm just going to be frank. As a matter already, regardless of the cruising, rolling of the stop sign. So, I'm actually seeing this as a success. I would, just like everybody else, would like to see the compliance rates go up. So those crashes can go down to zero. I always have a vision zero on things. Said, I would start to just take baby steps on this. If it's not working, we do have a lot of tools in our toolbox. Honestly, the pavement marking part of it, although I do think that they work, there's only two things. Usually, if you've got a lot of contrast, it works better. So if you got a dark asphalted pavement with a white pavement marking, works better. We've got concrete out there, and it's older in condition, so your contrast really isn't all that good. And of course, winter. Our roads get covered, and the markings get more and more faded. The salt wears on them, the brine wears on them, the plowing activities wear on it, and they're just not as an effective tool, in my opinion. So I'm more of a fan of just starting to do these signing upgrades, I think, first. And once we've exhausted all of those, then I'd say probably the blinker signs could be warranted, and especially if these crashes don't if they plateaued.
So unless someone has anything else, could we maybe make a motion to try the bright sides and get forestry to go make sure that trees aren't covering these signs as kind of a step one, maybe?
A quick question, Dave, would we bright side the stop ahead sign too, or not typically?
That's an option. Yeah, I've seen warning signs with bright signs as well. Yeah, with the exception, obviously the color change, and so in this case it'd be yellow.
So the state of Michigan has been doing that to all of their stop signs, and I think it's very impressive. It really stands out. So I think we should move forward with that.
Kasha, did you make that motion, or does someone else have to do it?
I think someone else has to.
Correct.
Okay, I make the motion to do the bright side on the stop signs, and do the forestry check on that intersection,
I would also suggest we do the stop ahead.
and do the stop ahead.
I'll second that.
Can I, oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Perfect. Well, we'll get David working on that. Thank you so much to everyone from the neighborhood and for being
Sure.
on here.
hello, Chair. Hello, Chair. This is Alder Stoyer.
Hello.
Yeah, I know you just voted. I just got back into this.
We just made a motion to add bright sides to the signs and the signs that say stop ahead, and have forestry come out and make sure that none of those signs are being blocked for you.
All right, I apologize for not being there as I wanted to be. I heard some of the discussion, but I'll stay in touch with Alder Stevens and with Mr. Hanson as well on this. But you know, if I will mention one thing, I would like to, you know, I told Mr. Health, the neighbor there, that I would come over occasionally and sit with him and observe traffic for myself, because I know that, you know, Mr. Hanson has mentioned that he has one other person for traffic to deal with this stuff, and it's very difficult to collect data on this type of thing. But if I've done this with other neighbors where I've sat and observed for a while, I'm willing to do that, so I can collect some data as well and then share that with the committee sometime in the future.
David, is there any way you could let Mark or Elder Stoyer know once those bright sides are installed so that he can actually see how they're working?
Absolutely.
That's great. I'll be in touch with you, David. Like I said, I missed some of it, but I got the general gist of what happened today, and I appreciate the committee and yourself and the neighbor coming forward.
Wonderful. Well, I know we have to jump back now to item number 3. Consideration with possible action on the request by Alder LaFave and residents to create a safe pedestrian crossing at University between Dan's and Clement Street. Alder LaFave.
Yes, I had a communication from some of the neighbors in the district in that area. I think they're probably senior citizens, and they're probably wanted to go over to probably the grocery store. I'm thinking it's a little hard to cross in that area. And University, I think it's one of the main feeder streets in Green Bay. So a lot of people travel down there, and someone too, it's hard for them if they're kind of in the middle or whatever, it's hard for them to get over to the sidewalk or the stop sign, stop and go lights, and at Dan's. And if you're down further, stop and go light there's nothing for them to cross over. So I think it's just because, you know, it takes them longer to get across the street, and whatever, I don't know what can be done, but I just thought I'd bring it forward because they asked.
Do you have any comments or thoughts on that, David?
Yes, I can confirm what she said just by phone calls. I received 2 phone calls. I'm presuming that they very well could be the same people. Because typically in these types of discussions that I have with concerned residents is that I will give them the phone number of the elder person as well, because obviously these things may take action of committee and council in order to get something applied. So yes, that is what I heard, is that it's usually like around Turek Street, I believe, is where the crossings are taking place. And I agree. I think that what's happening now, especially now that we have festival foods there now for a number of years, that they may be destined to either festival foods or the Quick Trip that's over at Clement Street. that being said, we do have two signalized intersections to cross University, one at Dan's and one at Clement. That, in my opinion, would be the safest type of crossing because it's controlled. You'd have pedestrians walk, don't walk, and flashing countdown timers. That to me, it would be the best way to get anyone across a busy arterial like that. If the request is, or if one of the applications to be considered would be to cross, say, at like Turek Street in that area, or Peters, I would strongly say no to that. And the reason is that there's a curve in the roadway that I think creates a blind condition, which I think could potentially make things worse. You know, you don't want to bring them to that area. They start crossing there and all of a sudden they start getting hit. I don't think that would be a good practice. So I think getting back to the signalized location, I did is I took an evaluation of the existing sidewalk. And what I found is that granted you have sidewalk on both sides of the University, it truncates or ends, terminates a little bit east of there and doesn't make it all the way to Clement Street. So one of the things I think that could be considered here to actually, I think, make it mission accomplished, which is to get the pedestrian to their destination safely, would be for them to actually walk on the north side of University. If we extended the sidewalk all the way up to the signal, then we'd have to modify the signal, add in pedestrian features for that. Like I was saying, the ped buttons, ADA style curb ramps. There's actually I think it's about a 15-foot median that was installed at that time that we could break open and provide for a pedestrian refuge. And as you're saying, that maybe some of these are elderly and disabled pedestrians that may take a little bit longer to cross. So it'd be much safer for them to just cross 2 lanes of traffic going in one direction, have a pedestrian refuge, and then make an observation to go across, obviously on a walk indication, and possibly consider having a button installation in the median. That would all get kind of worked out if indeed we kind of go down this route. But I really don't want to encourage any sort of crossings between those two controlled intersections for the simple fact of, I think, geometry of University Avenue would potentially maybe contribute to some additional problems if we added something. Rather, I think we use our existing facilities for them to cross at them. So I know I just talked about Clement and to the area to the east, but if we go towards the west, towards Dan's, those features are already built in. So if there are pedestrians that are, say, going to the other grocery store that is west of the Dan's Avenue intersection, that I think is already in place, and they can already use that. It's a location over at Clement Street. I think that there would need to be sidewalk ordered in on that west, or the north side, I should say. Knowing that there is no frontage there, this would be a cost that would have to be absorbed by the city. And we would perpetually maintain that sidewalk, meaning we would have to clear it of snow and ice on a regular basis. So that would have to actually go to the Improvement Service Committee to get that last piece installed, and then to make those traffic signal improvements. So that's, I think, really my take on this whole thing would be to make that last connection over at Clement. And then I think you actually have built in what the requesters are seeking.
So Dan, I have a question. So I like that idea a lot. So do we have to hold this and then maybe refer this to INS for approval?
That's a great question. I did have a brief discussion with Director Grenier before the meeting as we were discussing this potential recommendation. The way that sidewalk installation works is that a sidewalk study needs to happen in order for them to consider it. I had told them, I said, it's a very obvious one. They all just come back to me anyway. Being the traffic engineer, I'm the one that conducts those sidewalk studies. And I'll be quite honest with you, this one's kind of an easy one to me, where I would say, this is your sidewalk study. I'm looking at this and I think that it should go in, just connect that last piece. make the signal improvements, and it could go to INS, and we would put that as part of the agenda report, that the traffic engineer is making that recommendation, and I can just put together a one-page memo to that fact. It wouldn't take much time, but it would just be reiterating this discussion, and then my support.
The reason why I asked is I'm looking at the Google map right now, and and if we were to finish that off, we're kind of finishing off that loop on University. So I think it would be really nice for the pedestrians. So, because there are a lot of pedestrians over here. So
Yeah, and just just for cost purposes, just, I'm going to ballpark this, but when I looked at that, I know what our rate is per lineal foot. We'd have to actually put in 6-foot sidewalk because it'd be right behind the curb. We have 0 terrace there, so it'd actually be a 6-foot wide sidewalk. My estimates on that would probably be about 10 to 12,000. Add another 3,000 to 5,000 probably in signal upgrades. So you're probably looking at 15,000 to 17,000 on the entire project.
thank you, Alder LaFave.
So,
I don't know if Tasha can see you, so.
It depends on what screen I'm on.
my cat. No. So this is something that you would put in, and is it the INS is on Wednesday, so I assume it would not be in time for that meeting. But
Correct.
so
Correct. That
well,
is
you can let
kind
me
of-
know, because I'm sorry I won't be the alder anymore after by the time it comes up again, I believe.
We should be the Alder for next month.
When is it? It
I
would
think,
be
I think you're done on the next, the 19th Common Council. So the 18th are done.
right for the council, but oh, it would be, because I thought the 5th would be kind of
No.
the cutoff.
No.
Ooh, I got some more time.
Another month.
Ooh, okay.
All right. So David, do you just need us to make a motion to have you do the 1-page recommendation and hand it off to the other committee?
Yeah, a proper motion would be refer to staff for study and forward that study to the Improvement Service Committee for consideration of sidewalk.
I'll make that recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, well, we will put that recommendation through. Thank you so much.
Alder LaFave,
Alder
don't
LaFave.
leave so fast if you stick around.
No, I just want to know, Dave, can you call me my other issue? I still haven't heard anything about the wildlife sanctuary. The
Yes,
study that went on there.
yeah, we can discuss that at a different time, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then we are just down to informational. And we have our Alder Stevens. For a report by the Green Bay Police Department on traffic enforcement activities and recognitions. And then next meeting, April 18th.
Okay, hold on. We're too fast. So Dave, you put on the, I gotta find it, but
He has a request for a report.
yes. I didn't know we were doing a report part.
I'll be honest with you, all I did is I did what you asked, and I copied the request that from last year when this was on the agenda. You had just said, "Dave, just copy that and
Sure, yeah,
change the year on it." So I did. So that's how it was phrased last time.
sure. Well, Lieutenant Sobiak's not here tonight, so we won't have, unless the traffic officer can share their traffic enforcements from 2021. Their totals.
I don't have the whole year of stuff. I have February's information.
Okay, we already did that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so back to the recognition. So Wednesday, Chairman Dan Zeno, myself, met with the chief and also Mike Sobiak. In 2020, the Common Council, along with the former chief, really started looking at traffic throughout the city of Green Bay. So in 2020, the former chief came up with a slogan, "Slow down Green Bay," to start doing more enforcement of the traffic throughout the city. Well, we started getting additional numbers and data from the police department. So as of last year, 2021, this commission decided to recognize a patrol officer for the city of Green Bay. But last year we recognized Noel, I think it was Noel from last year. And so he came and we recognized him for the amount of going above and beyond their daily work. So we decided to continue that again. So on Wednesday, we actually met with a sergeant from the Green Bay Police Department. So we recognized him. So I'm going to give you a little background on him. And then I know he's here tonight. So if we have any questions, feel free to ask him. So we decided, because of the stats that came out, that we were going to recognize for 390 did last year. So his name is Sergeant, of course, Sean Hamill. Sarge Hamill has been with the Green Bay Police Department since 2005. He was promoted to sergeant in 2018 and is assigned to the day shift patrol in that capacity. Sergeant Hamill is a member of the Crash Recognition Unit since 2017. He's a member of the Motor Unit since 2015 and is also IACP drug recognition expert since 2011. So he has a lot on his plate, but he also decided that traffic was very important within the city. So he went above and beyond by doing additional traffic stops, which is counted for 390 last year. So he did the most traffic stops out of the pool of patrol officers. So we felt like it was nice that we would recognize him for going above and beyond. So if you have any questions, please ask Sean and he'll take it from there.
No questions, but thank you so much and congratulations. Fine, I see Elder Lefebvre.
So before Elder Lefebvre, so Wednesday, he was given one of these.
Good.
And it was signed, by our chairman, Dan, the police chief, and also the mayor of the city.
No, I have a question of, okay, the program, Slow Down Green Bay. I believe it was mostly with speeding. Am I correct? That's what the whole thing was about?
Correct.
Okay, there's something else that maybe they can include. They should be letting people know. It was just on this morning on the national news. They had a big article of someone, and it's true. People, they speed, they go too fast. You should follow the speed limit on every street, because when you go above, you're wasting more gas. Okay, with the gas prices up so much. And the recommendation also is that you can see ahead, stop like turning red. If you're like 3-4 blocks ahead, slow a little bit, gentle braking, and a lot of times you can come up to, you'll be going really slow to the light, it'll change, and then you can accelerate slowly and go on your way. And so that you can save a lot on gas. And with the gas prices right now, I think you should double check on that. I think the highway departments and different ones, I think they're also kind of talking about this. It'll save a lot of people with the gas prices. So your gas mileage would be much better when you don't go, really speeding up above the posted speed limit. I think 55 is, I think on the highway, 55, I think is the real cutoff for saving on gas. Once you go over that, you're really using up more gas. And when you idle too much, you burn more gas. So these are things I think that the public needs to know, and to start slowing down for there's a lot of good reasons to slow down.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Sean.
Yes, go
Can
ahead,
you-
Alder.
Sure, I don't know this, but can you explain motor unit?
Motor units or motorcycle unit.
Motorcycle, okay, perfect.
Yeah. We
So
have,
my other
so we have
question-
4 motorcycles. So there's 4 motorcycles that the department has. We lease them, and then we have 10 officers right now that are, or actually we have 8 officers right now that are trained on the motorcycles. And we host a school annually, and we're gonna be training another 4 this year to get us up to 12 officers.
Perfect. So my other question for you is, I'm putting you on the spotlight. You know, I met you on Wednesday, you know, your companions, they all say you're very humble. You're probably one of the best guys at the police department. So why did you choose to go above and beyond? And it really shows 390 traffic stops last year. What made you do that?
I don't think there's anything real particular that always got me going on traffic enforcement. Something I've enjoyed, just enjoyed doing, especially years of working night shift. Really took a passion in OWI enforcement and impaired driving enforcement. I think if I were to pick one thing that really motivated me on that, it was when Sergeant Netzker, I don't know if everybody remembers Ashley Netzker, his daughter was killed 2008, I believe. But when I was working that night, and then ever since then, being even more motivated for the impaired driving enforcement. And throughout my career, I think, as I mentioned, drug recognition expert. If you know what that is, so we have the normal OWI, which is alcohol related, but there's also illicit drugs as well as prescription medications, or really any substance that's taken in the body that can impair your ability to drive. We do additional tests on that to recognize it, as well as enforce that and get a prosecution for that type of impairment. So now I'm on day shift, we don't get as much of the alcohol stuff, but we do get a lot of impaired driving based off of heroin, methamphetamines, all the illicit drugs, as well as the prescription drugs. So I think that's something that's really motivated me now that I'm on day shift to continue the enforcement.
Okay,
But
thank you.
no, all of it comes down to is trying to save lives and reduce the injuries and the crashes.
I ask you this due to the fact, you know, we do have our traffic officers, and we have the 4 traffic officers, and we have our patrol officers. Well, our traffic officers are all tapped on the shoulders to do traffic related stops, but our patrol officers are asked to do it, but it's not, we don't make them do it. So that's why you went above and beyond. So that's why when we look at recognition, we look at the patrol officers, because they're going above and beyond what they're expected to be doing. You know, regarding traffic, we expect them to do traffic. So that, I want to make a clarification there for the rest of the commission, in case you didn't know that. So.
No, and I appreciate that. And as a sergeant, I stress to my guys that, you know, everybody has a passion that they go to. Some people are more into just going drug enforcement. Some people are into the traffic stuff. Some people are just want to be responding to calls and doing stuff that way, or focusing on training other officers. But all those things are just different aspects of the job, and everybody has to at times do each of those. But you know, as long it's a long career of 25, 30 years, have people focusing on things that they really, you know, enjoy and will keep them going. But when there is a blatant somebody running a red light or stop sign right in front of you, it's an expectation of their job to do that. And so I appreciate the recognition.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Alder Stevens and the chief and the mayor to recognize you. That's great. I thank you very much. I think you should be proud of your service.
Thank you, Alder.
Does anyone else have anything, any questions, comments? I was like, I agree. Thank you for your service. And I'm just going to go on informational. Next meeting, Monday, April 18th. If there is that anyone needs, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all for your time and thoughts and consideration this evening.
Thank you.
Greg, can you also
Thank
give me a
you.
call?
Yeah, I
I'll
can call you.
discuss something. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.